Salutations everybody, it is Matty here today with my review for Ratchet & Clank on the PS4, and I'm so excited to bring this one to you guys because I have been a Ratchet & Clank fan my entire life, and it's funny how life comes full circle sometimes. So a big thanks to Insomniac Games for hooking me up with the early review copy to let you know if this game is worth your time and your money. So before we dive into anything else, what exactly is Ratchet & Clank on the PS4? That's a question a lot of people have been asking. Is this a reboot? Is this a remake? Is this a brand new entry in the Ratchet & Clank franchise? What exactly is it? So first we're going to describe it exactly how Insomniac Games describes it, as the game based on the movie based on the game. So basically, you have Ratchet & Clank from 2002, the first ever Ratchet & Clank game on the PlayStation 2, and basically they have a new film coming out on April 29th, and that film is based off the first Ratchet & Clank game. But this game, Ratchet & Clank on the PS4, is based off that brand new movie. Get what I'm saying now? So that's exactly what this game is. So essentially what it is a reboot because it's retelling the origin story of Ratchet & Clank, but it's also a remake because it's a lot of the same thing from the first Ratchet & Clank, but realized in a much grander and better fashion with lots of new wrinkles, but that also makes it kind of a new entry in the franchise. So yes, I did mention there's a bit of familiarity with this game, and that's kind of like with all Ratchet & Clank games. You're going to be shooting a lot of stuff, you're going to be collecting bolts, you're going to see some of the same planets, but the difference is that they kind of expand on all this stuff in the right ways. Obviously with the weapons, you have a much more updated arsenal. I was really taken back by that. I thought there was going to be a lot of the same guns from the first game, and then a couple new weapons, but no, I felt like they just added a bunch of them, man, and I was really excited about that because obviously a big hook for Ratchet & Clank is its insane arsenal. And then on top of that, the planets, how did they change those? Obviously mainly graphically, but also a new art direction. It's almost as if they looked at Ratchet & Clank on the PS2 and said, what were we really imagining when we were developing this game? And then they brought it to life in this game, Ratchet & Clank on the PS4, and I really appreciate that because it really kind of brings a lot of the conflict in the game to life. It's a really spectacular looking game, arguably one of PS4's best looking games, which is kind of amazing to say that this game series has been around for so long and now it's one of PS4's best looking games, and hell, it could be even one of its best games if you're like me who's been a long-term fan of the franchise. It's really just a blast to play through because Insomniac just knows what makes Ratchet & Clank so good, and they do it very well with this game. Also adding in some new mechanics, because yes, I did mention brand new wrinkles in this game, and it kind of helps with the pacing and the flow, because if you ask me, at times it could have gotten a little bit monotonous in Ratchet & Clank to constantly shoot stuff, collect bolts. It's a very addicting mechanic, but you need certain things kind of tossed in there to break it up a little bit, whether it's like riding grind rails or the hoverboard and stuff in previous games. But basically what they do in this game is they add new Clank sections, and inside these Clank sections you can play as Clank. There's a lot of puzzles and stuff, and it's not like an absolute blast, but it's just good for the pacing because it's kind of just breaking up that shooting just for a couple of minutes or so that you can get that new gadget or you can get that new weapon, a new upgrade, because sometimes it's just optional puzzles and stuff, which is also another thing. This game introduces a lot of optional content, which is a fantastic addition. There's also new spaceship sections which introduce obviously space combat. It was a little weird with the controls because it was all mapped to the left stick, but really I didn't mind. It was still fun. Once again, that other extra addition that just kind of made it so that it wasn't just all shooting as Ratchet. It just added all these other mechanics that were kind of inspired from previous games, which I thought was one of the little cool things about this game. Is it's more of a celebration of Ratchet & Clank than anything, it seems to be, because there's a lot of throwbacks. There's a holo card system, which I'll get into in a second, but really what it does is it kind of takes, like, for example, Into the Nexus had a lot of jetpack segments, and there's a level that's been reworked that we saw in Ratchet & Clank 2002 that actually has a whole jetpack segment built straight from the Into the Nexus kind of segment of that series. So yeah, it's really cool to see Insomniac kind of go back and take what they did right with every single Ratchet & Clank game and kind of toss it into this one. But I mentioned the holo card system. What exactly is that? Basically, this is kind of what expands on the game even further, because now you have another new collectible. So enemies naturally drop holo cards. You can also find them littered about in the world, and when you open them you get cards, and you can flip them over, and they kind of have throwbacks to previous Ratchet & Clank games, like I said, kind of celebrating the franchise. But what's really cool is that when you unlock a full holo card set, it plays into the new arsenal system that is in Ratchet Clank PS4 that I really like. So basically, when you go to a Gadgetron station, you can buy new weapons there, but you can also upgrade them with this new other collectible called Raritanium. And Raritanium is basically a new skill tree that you spend to unlock brand new buffs for your weapons. So in Ratchet & Clank, you unlock gun XP as you kind of kill enemies. It just gradually fills until it fully upgrades. But now Raritanium adds to that, so basically what happens is you're going to be spending that to unlock even more cool things for your weapon. And then on top of that, how all this holo card system plays into that is what happens is when you unlock a full set, you unlock the Omega variant of the weapon. And this Omega variant is available in the New Game Plus, which is one of Ratchet & Clank's always been its biggest strength, is the fantastic New Game Plus mode called Challenge Mode. So there's a lot of incentive to collect as many of these holo cards as you possibly can because it unlocks new forms of these weapons. And when you unlock the Omega variant of these weapons, it increases the level cap so you can keep buffing it, and it also unlocks new Raritanium kind of skill trees, so it expands the game even further. And obviously in the New Game Plus you have the Bolt multiplier, which is infamous in the series, so it's really just expanding on what makes Ratchet & Clank great. Now the question you are probably reasonably asking yourself at this point is this just deep-rooted nostalgia for myself? And that's why I'm so excited about this game, and I totally understand why you'd be asking that. For me personally, if you were a brand new fan to this franchise and you'd never played Ratchet & Clank, this is a fantastic point to enter it. Like I said, it's retelling the origin story of Ratchet & Clank. It includes all elements from previous games into this game that really made them all special and unique, making this one special and unique because it's kind of a culmination of everything done right in Ratchet & Clank. So yes, absolutely, there is a bit of nostalgia, but that's always been the case with Ratchet & Clank because it's always been this same formula that always works, but just new wrinkles and little changes here and there that really switch it up, making it feel like a whole fresh brand new game, because that's exactly what it is. So with all that content I just mentioned, you might be wondering if this game is $60. Nope, this game is $40, which is why I'm absolutely fully recommending it at this point, because it's $40 freaking dollars, people. That's insane that this game offers more content than a lot of games I played in the past that are $60, and this one is $40. Plus, it's Ratchet & Clank. It's got the great humor, which I really got to give credit to because it really relates to modern gaming culture as well as like YouTube comments and stuff. For me, it was some of the most relatable game humor I've had in a video game in a long while. It was so ridiculous. Some of the stuff I was like, wow, I know exactly what they're talking about. Also, some of the new stuff is obviously brand new cinematics. That's also a great addition. One thing that did catch me off guard though is the fantastic soundtrack in this game. When I think Ratchet & Clank, it does have a great soundtrack, but that's not what I think of immediately. But Ratchet & Clank on the PS4 kind of changes that and makes this kind of cool electronic yet kind of dubsteppy kind of playlist, and it's really, really good. It really gets you kind of like, you know, moving in your seat while you're playing the game. It really kind of amplifies the situation you're in. It's a really good mix, and they really did a good job picking it out. So, if you couldn't tell, my verdict on this game is if you are a PlayStation 4 owner, you should own this game, mainly because it's $40. That is such a great price for this product. Not to say that I wouldn't recommend it at $60, but at $40, it's almost a no-brainer. Now, mind you, I am a giant fan of this series, but also as a giant fan, I am more susceptible to be critical of this franchise, and I think they did a great job not trying to change things up too much because they did respect that this was an original game. This is what started Ratchet & Clank, but they also did a good job of adding new things that didn't break the game, but enhanced it in every single way, making it a much better experience. So kudos to you, Insomniac. This is a game that could have been easily screwed up, and hell, it's a good standard to set for tie-in games, man. I'm really excited. Maybe they'll finally make a good Spider-Man game at this point. But anyway, I hope this is kind of a new trend for Sony to actually, you know, go ahead and start rebooting the franchise that really were, in my opinion, kind of the pillars of PlayStation, like the Sly Cooper, the Jak and Daxter, the Ratchet & Clank. I hope to see more of these franchises because they really made my childhood, and a lot of people missed out on them. Seriously, people, there's HD collections for all those franchises I just mentioned, and you really should check them out. But I really hope that for gamers who are just getting into these games today, that maybe they can try these out on the PlayStation 4 at some point, because man, they are some fantastic games. And basically what I'm saying is that Ratchet & Clank on the PS4 is a fantastic celebration of the Ratchet & Clank franchise, but also a great entry point for new fans. So fans old and new, this is a game you should have on your radar at the very least and be checking out at some point down the line. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. If you're new here, be sure to subscribe for more reviews. I always try to drop them on or before launch day of the big game releases. So I hope you guys are excited for more reviews down the line. I have a couple more on my list, and I'm talking to a lot of publishers, so big thanks to them for being really involved in my channel. I do appreciate that. Other than that, let me know your thoughts on Ratchet & Clank PS4 in the comments down below. I'm really curious as to your thoughts on this. Also, be sure to follow me on Twitter, like me on Facebook. The links are in the description box. Check out SugarBomb.com, the place by Bethesda fans for Bethesda fans. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.